Language does the word democracy derive? Greek. Greek, very good. Let's break it down. Demos means the people. Kratia means rule. Very good. So literally, the word democracy broken down from the Attic Greek means the people rule. Pop quiz. How many of you friends, that is a problem? But saying it another way, I think it's a good thing. What? Oh, no. It's not a good thing that we the people don't rule. It's a good thing that people aren't raising their hands to that question anymore. See, I submit it's a good thing that we're being politically courageous and upset. They're stealing our future and our children's future. True. See, this is what telling the truth feels like. It's rather liberating because we're not sovereign. The sovereign was the king. At least in the European tradition, those words were literally synonymous. And where did the king claim his authority to rule? God. You don't get more legitimate. Destroying the planet that we depend upon for life itself, and that is true. See, if these things are true and we know that they're true, then we need to start thinking and acting differently than we have been. I think we need to start thinking and acting like we're in a crisis. You know why I think we should start thinking and acting like we're in a crisis? Because we're in a crisis, y'all. Say it out loud. Say it to each other. Right? It's good to verbalize that.
We're in a
crisis. Because you see, when you're in an actual crisis, it calls forth for a kind of action that just bad things can provoke us into action. And let's be honest, this crisis is an ecological crisis worldwide. The global climate crisis is real and it's hurtling towards us. There's a social justice crisis. People, mostly people of color and poor, and literally turning them into commodities that can be profited by being incarcerated, and that's how the system is designed. They've got rights and I need to engage with them in an open heart and a loving way, even if I disagree with them. Right? So that's one thing. Another thing that I really appreciated from you, sir, is that you said, do we really want to be messing around with the Constitution? Well, what I would say is this. The move to amend approach right now is actually a congressional proposal, right? It's not saying open up the whole Constitution. It might, because there are two ways to amend the Constitution. Either you can get 2/3 of Congress to propose it, at which point it goes to the states for ratification, or you get 2/3 of the states to propose a constitutional convention, which might open up other things. Now, sir, I want to be clear. That's a Y in the road that any movement for a constitutional amendment would ultimately come. Do we keep it strictly controlled to just our proposal, at which point we got to stay in Congress, or do we open it up wide open to other things? But if we open it up wide open, let's just be clear, it means we could actually talk about a constitutional right to health care as a fundamental human right in the Constitution. It means that we could talk about a right to adequate housing as a fundamental human right as a part of the Constitution. It means we could open up to a right to free education all the way up through university as a constitutional right, a right to education, a right to enough food to eat. Because see, as a lawyer, what I know is if you actually frame something like a constitutional right and it's not being delivered upon, then there's a remedy, isn't there, sir? It means I should be able to go to court and say the policy needs to change because if I'm hungry, my right to enough food to eat is being violated. So what I'm saying, sir, is this notion of opening up the Constitution is both scary and inspiring because it's playing for all the marbles. And I'll let you go back because I know you've asked a profound question. But I do want to say this, whether we open it up all the way to a constitutional convention or we keep it narrow to just a move to amend language, that why we'll have to ultimately make a decision. But sir, we've got a lot of road to travel before that decision has to be made. Do you follow? In other words, I'm willing to debate whether or not we should open it up to even more things or keep it narrowly controlled, but we're at least 10, 15 years away from we haven't built enough of a movement and a demand yet. So I have the same concerns that I think that you have expressed, but I'm also inspired to think about the kind of fundamental positive changes that can be made. So I'm ambivalent. You know what I mean? I'm honestly ambivalent about those. Go ahead and follow up because I see you want to.
Well, since you mentioned the word model, let's be careful on where we put our models. Because if you put your mouth in a shoebox, it's going to be all over the place.
I feel you. And here's literature that actually has the amendment on the back, and make sure that we pass that out. Thank you so much, sister. So we're going to make sure to pass that around too. I should have made sure that we did that. And I think you'll be very pleased by how narrowly the current congressional proposal is that's actually there. It just says only human beings have constitutional rights and money is not speech. It's very tightly controlled at this point. Number 4.
Anybody else?
I know we had a 4. That's right here.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad you're here, but I'm disappointed, and I hope you are too, that we don't have this room full. And it should be even more full. And look around and think, who else do I know that needs to know this and needs to be here? I was listening to what you just said about 10 or 15 years, and one of the pretty millennials over here, you should have looked at her face, because her face dropped.
Oh.
10 or 15 years, and I'm saying millennials don't even know this, but they are bigger than the baby boomer generation. You are bigger, you have Facebook. You are able to...
It's hard to get people's attention though, to actually want to like make the change. A lot of people just ignore it and they don't believe that it's actually happening. But it's my world.
That's what she's saying. She says a lot of people are just ignoring it. They don't believe this is actually happening. Democracy is under attack, and it's actually in danger, in true danger. That's why I joined the group. I want my grandchildren to live in a democracy. It's kind of like the story about the frog in the boiling water. The water's slowly warming and warming and warming, and the frog just kind of adapts and thinks, well, this is bad, but not so bad, I can do this, I can do this. And they did an NPR interview on about millennials, and they were doing working millennials and what they felt. They have bought this whole doctrine about you don't need health care, and you're not going to have Social Security, and you're not going to have job security either, and you're not going to have a home. You don't need a home. And they're buying into that because of what the pervasive spin has been, that we don't run our government, that we don't deserve a democracy. We need to get that attention, and the way we need to do it is by telling stories. We need to get those stories out there. We need to have more entertainers, hip-hop entertainers. We need to have radio interviews. And I went to the immigration rally, and I talked to several people there who had gotten on radio shows to talk about Move to Men. They weren't Move to Men, but they wanted to get the word out. They want people to know. I stop people cold in the Amway Plaza, millennials in the Barnes and Noble, and I sit down at the table and I talk with them. I say, do you know? If you had to say which of our democratic constitutional rights are still being protected and preserved, do you know which one is not under attack? Due process? Speech? Assembly? Religion?
There does seem to be a lot of concern around the second one.
Yeah, that's another activity.
That's
Tell them
it.
they're going to lose the Second Amendment if they don't.
It's all about rights to bear arms, and why? Corporate gun manufacturers are protecting that right. People do not understand. We are that frog in that warming water. They do not understand that water is about to boil.
Yeah.
So here's we've got a stack, and I'll come back to you at the end. Are you number 5? Were you already number 5? All right. So we have number 5 is back here, Paul. So let me just make a quick comment though, because I think that what you're saying is true, and I appreciate the 10 to 15 years though is a blink of an eye really in terms of movement history, but it can also happen fast. I mean, I know that for me, I woke up one day to see the Berlin Wall falling, and I pay attention. Right? Could anybody have predicted 5 years before that when it happened? Would anybody lie to me and say, "Oh yeah, I saw that coming"? Right? The point is, things can happen much more fastly than we think. There is such a thing as a tipping point.
Right.
And my honest guess is that we're 10 to 15 years, but I think that there's a critical mass where tipping point can happen and happen fast. And you mentioned Facebook. I want to ask this. Anybody here have a Facebook account, even if you don't like that you have a Facebook account? Okay, that got some more hands in the air. Here's the thing, if you have a Facebook account, you know how you can help grow the Move to Men movement? Go to your status update and just say, I joined www.movetoamend.org. Please check it out. And as long as you put that www.movetoamend.org, that whole website will show up in your feed, which means it'll show up in the feed of every one of your family and friends. And if everybody in this room actually did that has a Facebook account, do you know that probably 500 to 1,000 more people would actually see it? That's the point. How many here would now, in the next 24 hours, go to your website and say, I joined www.movetoamend? If you do it, and by the way, I can check up on y'all. Friend me, David Keith Cobb, and I'll check up on you. And the next thing I want to do is take this opportunity to say, folks, if you're listening to this message, you're listening not because the corporate media wanted you to hear it. To the contrary, the corporate media actually serves as a filter to keep honest information from you. You're watching this because Karina, who is behind the camera right now, took it upon herself. Don't hate the media, become the media. And she posted this probably on a website, maybe on a uploading, sharing link. Maybe you're watching it on cable media access. And YouTube. Or YouTube. And maybe Karina has even wrote www.movetoamend.org somewhere about right here. Yeah, she says, yeah, so it'll be about right here. So I'm asking you, if you've been moved by this, please go to that website and join up, because we want you to join this movement.
All right.
Yeah. Number 5.
Yes, I appreciate the little lesson in corporate law 101. But,
if you don't use the microphone, you have to talk into it, otherwise it doesn't matter.
Close enough so you can hear your echo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it now?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Anyway, I did learn an awful lot this evening. I appreciate this. And a movement like yours, staffed with the kind of people that we are getting to know, is something that is extremely worthwhile to carry that message. And what I'm concerned about is the main issue with this government today is Congress, obviously. And in Washington, D.C., there's over 1,500 political action committees, over 8,000 lobbyists. Those lobbyists are there representing these corporate entities, or these top 1%ers, wherever they are. There is absolutely none of them representing the population of this country. The citizens of the United States of America are not getting represented in D.C. by anybody. Sure, we have elected officials there, but guess what? Who controls them? The top 1%. How do they do it? Because of their wealth is profound, because of their connections, and that's how they control Congress. They literally bribe congressmen to follow their dictate. That's what happens.
Yep.
Now, the thing is, and I want to make this a serious issue, it is time for the United States citizens, because that's the only one that's going to make it happen, to have their own political action committee. Now, when you're talking about joining a political action committee, you're talking about becoming a dues-paying member. There are 150 million taxpayers in this nation. If less than 7% would simply join this PAC and contribute an average of only $50 a year, that's $500 million every single year. Every 2 years is a national election, and guess what's going to be there? $1 billion. That's serious. And that's what is needed. And people like you need to introduce this idea to the public so that they become acquainted with it and believe in it. Now tonight, very first time, the Ed Show is back on Channel 3 at 5 o'clock. Every single night he is on for a full hour. Following him at, I think at 7 o'clock is Chris Matthews. But nevertheless, each one of those two guys represents a mass majority. We need our move to amend needs to get on one of those shows and be heard so that those type of guys that are on the air every week and year in and year out are going to carry this message to the multitudes and get something accomplished that meetings like this cannot do. But to get this from point A to point B, you need financial strength. And if you have the financial strength that these citizens create by this political action committee and their simple membership fee, they have something that's overwhelming as far as any competitor is concerned to them, and that is the vote, because they represent the mass majority. And that vote and that money is extremely powerful political situation that profoundly describes the word political power.
Okay.
That's what's needed. Thank you.
So we're going to do one more round. I saw this gentleman will be number 1. I'll stick around. Shamako and I will both stick around. Sir, you'll be number 2 in the back. Are there anybody else? And we'll stick around because we know that there are always some people who are quiet and may not like to stand up publicly. So we'll stick around and have number 3. So we do have a number 3 and a number 4. So we'll do those 4, but before, and number 5. But before we do, you mentioned that I should try to get Move to Mend onto the big media shows. If any of you can get me on a media outlet, I will get on that media outlet like that. We have a whole team that tries to get on national media. But at this point, can I ask, is it Yasmin? Yasmin, stand up for a moment. This woman got me on local media. Thank you, Yasmin. Move to Amend
and the Institute for Global Education.
And where did you help us get on?
WGBU Radio.
So the point is, simply by doing the work at the local level, Yasmin, as a Move to Mend organizer, actually was able to get us on some media. So we've got People's Media. We're doing everything that we know how to do. And if any of you can get myself or any of our colleagues on media, how easy was it, Yasmin?
It was a phone call.
So let's just actually get to work together. Number 1.
Yeah, just a brief comment about the right wing has a powerful mythological story in this so-called free market capitalism, individualism, and that kind of thing. So we need to get our story so that we know it, we understand it, we can talk about it, because the right wing's mythological free market capitalism, when
Fair enough. And so, I told the longer version of the story. Here's the very short version of the story. That we, the people, are supposed to be sovereign in the United States of America. We are supposed to have the power to create the society that we want. And what we want is peace, love, justice, and democracy. And that for everybody. Now that, I believe, is an equally powerful mythology. In fact, sir, I'll tell you, it's more important. I think it's more powerful, and I think that what made it more powerful is that in my short little mythology, I was not embarrassed to say love and compassion.
Yeah.
I think that if we actually start introducing love and compassion into our political demands, it opens up a whole new vision, and I think that more people will actually join us than we could possibly accommodate if we do that. But thank you, you're right, we've got to challenge their mythology and point out that if we're for love and justice, well, what's the other side for? Yes, sir. See the power of story? Yes, sir.
Welcome to Grand Rapids.
Thank you.
I'm Vince Schumacher. I have been a member of Move to Amend Grand Rapids. I'm also an ACLU member. I do have some concerns about the impact of the proposed amendment on the First Amendment.
Okay.
In particular, I noticed that the third section, former third section of this proposed amendment has been dropped. I'm sure you're familiar with the discussions that must have gone on why we should drop the third section. Can you tell the audience what the third section is?
Would you remind us since since it concerns you?
Yes.
Because I honestly don't remember, but
Okay.
refresh me.
Number 3, we have section 1, section 3 used to say, this amendment shall not be interpreted to abridge freedom of the press.
Gotcha.
And of course, the concern was a lot of corporations are media. They
Right. so thank you, thanks for the reminder. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. I can tell you the reason that it got dropped by the congressional office that introduced it was because lawyer after lawyer, including myself, acknowledged that it's not necessary because the First Amendment stands alone, and the First Amendment is not dependent upon the media being incorporated or not. I mean, the New York Times versus Sullivan case that we're familiar with as lawyers, and it really started to put some meat on the bones of the First Amendment in modern times, it did not in any way, shape, or form depend upon the fact that the New York Times was an incorporated entity. It was because that entity was media. And we believe that it doesn't matter, and it doesn't, that it just simply doesn't matter. And so we tried to simply clean it up to make that proposed amendment as strong and powerful as we could possibly make it. So that's the reason that the initial third section was withdrawn, was because it was confusing more people than it was helping. So that's the reason. Number 3. Yes, sir.
I'm Chester Lowe. I'm one of the board members of the Institute for Global Education, and I produce TV talk shows. And we were hoping to be able to have you come on our TV talk show coming up. That's one thing I was hoping to convey. Now, I'm glad to hear you say that this evening about being interested in coming to our talk show one day.
I have a 12 p.m. Central Time flight. Shamato and I leave out of Chicago, but I would ask you this. I'll be back, and I happen to see my colleague Roman Collins, who is right there. Roman, what's your name again, sir?
Chester.
Chester? Roman, would you get with Chester and see when we come back, is there a way? Because I'll actually be back for a full week in across Michigan, thanks to Roman. So, Roman, would you please stand up? I want to acknowledge Roman Collins, who is the organizer. But how old are you? 17. 17 years old. How old are you? 20 years old. Move to Amend is in the house, y'all. Yeah. Right? So Chester, I will come back. Roman will make that happen in next week. When do I come back?
September 15th.
So yes, we'll come back.
Great. My statement actually has to do with 2 points. One
Yes.
is about the concept of you coming back. Next is about sponsorship or co-sponsorship of the TV talk show and the Wealthy Street Bakery. Donating our coffee to us. No one knows that. And
Well, now we do. Thanks to you. Let's give us thanks to the local coffee shop, the local bakery. Thank you. Roman, make sure you get with Chester and arrange for us to get down into his program.
Now, you got to tell me what we're doing.
I forget where it's number 4. Y'all can remember your numbers. Hey, my secret trick only works if you remember your numbers. So 4 and 5, and then we're going to cut loose. But again, we'll stick around for a little bit of conversation afterwards. Number 4.
In your presentation, there was the purpose of the Constitution was to preserve the rights of the individual. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I'm saying, well, now how does the common good, how does the good of the whole come in if we stress so forcefully the individual rights?
Well, I just want to point out that actually individuals have rights, but there is a public component of a communitarian part as well. I don't actually stress individual rights quite so much. What I say is corporations don't have them, right? So, but I think that the whole point of democracy is that we're supposed to have a public communitarian process to make decisions. And if I did not stress that enough for you to hear it, then that's been my mistake as a presenter not to really lift that up. So thanks for the feedback to be clear that I need to really be very explicit that this is a public communitarian process about what democracy is supposed to mean. So I agree with you. Last comment, back to our Move to Amend organizer. Fitting that we have a Move to Amend organizer make the final comment.
Just wanted to, is it sorry? You can hear. Just wanted to ask everybody who's been here today to think about 3 things that you can do this week to get more people on the know about what's going on how much our democracy is at stake. And you can also go online and sign the We the People Amendment. You need to know that. It's that easy. If you can contact some people to go online, move2amend.org, We the People Amendment, and you can sign on there. And thank you for coming.
Thanks so much, y'all. Let's give a thanks to the United Church of Christ for allowing us in this space. Let's give a thank you again to Rocco Noble for the performance art that he gave us. Thank you for coming. Paul, you got the last word.
The last word is that we thank God for being here, and we need to continue to expand our vision with the hip-hop generation.
How about that, right?
Expand our vision. Because that's where the young folks are. You know, we've got to and then I want you to go home and everybody tweet this, tweet it, go to your Facebook pages and like it, and that multiplies us. I got 3,500 followers. I'm going home.
There it is. He's going to do his homework. You do yours. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
I'll stick around and put more thoughts.
Thank you.
I'll stick around and put more thoughts.
Fabulous. Whenever you're ready.
Right. Cats is broke. You act like that's a joke, like these cats will not grab the gat and smoke for like...
Wait a minute. Sorry, I gotta get closer. I'm not hearing you.
Okay.
There is
Is it a volume issue?
Yeah, I mean, a little
What if
bit.
we were to ask the Reverend if we could find yeah.
If I get close enough.
He already took it.
Oh,
They took it.
Did you, who was the Reverend? Reverend Doug?
Lori would.
Lori? Would you? Would you, yeah, because, and say that we're looking for a place where...
time now.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Cats is broke. You act like that's a joke, like these cats will not grab the gat and smoke for like half a Coke in that jacket low, getting the sense you ain't out here. But the young G's are really about it, down to clown here, down to move pounds all across the town here, and make moves without fear. We got these poorly rated makeshift lawmakers mucking up, bankers sinking tankers, but the haters still coming up. People losing their homes with no one to blame except an imaginary market that gets harder to tame. Got us a shame these credit companies harvest your pain. Pillage and plunder and just chalk it up as part of the game. Stalking your wage, call you and call you and call you again. Make deals, don't even know who you bargaining with. They try to act like it's not a threat to their order. But thousands in Detroit still don't have any water. Going after your son or your daughter to sign them up for their own slaughter. Another public housing unit torn up. Police don't even bother with conversations or whatnot. They just speak with a taser or object with a gunshot. They abhor Saul and their court of law is crystal clear. Convicted for surviving the traps they have engineered. You know, folks are starving. The White House is starting to look like J.P. Morgan. Obama just barged in by a limited margin because of his charm and all of the harm the Bush farm did. But I'ma keep it real. Because even though we won, we still got an economic system that's been overrun. And we don't understand it when we are all lost. These corporations, they only want to cut the costs. They hack away at jobs, prices don't level off, playing ball's more expensive, people have less to toss. We've always loved America because we've been better off, but give a warm goodbye to privilege, y'all, because we just shipped it off. They bail out all the banks and raise the stakes for corporate cronies. We have to choose between bankruptcy and our heart exploding. It thickens up in this piece. We see the plot unfolding, cooped up in a pseudo-free market just as it starts imploding. Cats are pissed. Critical mass, what'll happen to us after this? It's a conspiracy, a theory we can master if we get past our past, look at the math and just smash the... For many there's a God, for some cash is it, and they'll be glad when fascism crushes activists. Why are toddlers sleeping on benches while pundits addicted to pills are sitting on TV just promoting agendas? We could affect it all with our collective thought, but there are sections lost and there are sections bought. And there are sections that may never want to understand, and there are sections that will gain the upper hand working the numbers, man. There were lines drawn, you're wrong, tried to ride the fence. Signify your mind and then focus, use your mind's offense. It won't take one of us, it won't take 25. It will take all of us to survive.
Thank you. And tell us who you are and tell us a little more about hip-hop here.
All right, well, my name is Shamako Noble. I am an executive director and member of an organization called Hip Hop Congress, founded in 1997. We are an organization of artists, educators, organizers from the hip hop generation who came through and experienced our interpretation of the world through hip hop culture. I'm here today with David Cobb, Move to Amend, basically just want to send a message that hip hop stands in solidarity with the liberation movements of the country and the world, and corporations are not people. People are people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anything you want to add?
Love.
Thank you. Do appreciate that again.
Thank you.
Station in Vernon, Vermont. The site has been the target of protests for decades and has had a series of radioactive tritium leaks. We'll have more on its closure and its significance for the nation later in the broadcast. Low-wage workers at fast food and